My name is Alicia Voss, and the last time my family gathered for dinner, my cousin Chantel lectured me about finally getting serious about a real career, while I was mentally calculating how many terrorist cells we'd neutralize that quarter. They had no idea that 3 hours earlier, I'd briefed the president on an imminent threat to the East Coast. I've been the director of the National Counterterrorism Center for 6 years. My family thinks I work in government admin, somewhere vague and unimpressive in Washington, D.C. The lie wasn't deliberate at first. When I took the deputy director position 11 years ago, I'd simply said, I got promoted at Thanksgiving. My mother had responded with, "That's nice, sweetie," before immediately pivoting to my brother Garrett's new Tesla. When I became director at 39, the youngest in NCTC history, I'd mentioned another promotion over the phone. My father had said, "Good for you," in the same tone he used when I told him I'd gotten my oil changed. So I stopped elaborating. It became easier to let them believe whatever narrative they'd constructed, easier than explaining that I couldn't discuss my work, easier than watching their eyes glaze over when I mentioned interagency coordination or classified briefings. The condescension had started small. Little comments about how secure government jobs were said with a pitying smile, as if I'd chosen safety over ambition. Suggestions that I should network more or think about an MBA. My Aunt Katrina once asked during a holiday party if I'd ever considered something in the private sector where the real money is. I'd smiled and said I was happy where I was. "Well," she'd replied, patting my hand, "not everyone is cut out for high-pressure careers." The irony was exquisite. That morning I'd coordinated a multi-agency response to a credible threat against 3 major airports. My low-pressure job involved preventing mass casualty events before breakfast. But I'd learned something valuable in intelligence work. People reveal more when they underestimate you. My family's condescension had become a kind of cover, one I'd grown oddly comfortable maintaining. The worst of it came from Chantel. My cousin had graduated from Georgetown with a business degree and landed a job at a consulting firm that she referenced in every conversation. She lived in a trendy Arlington apartment, wore designer clothes to family events, and had perfected the art of the humble brag. "I'm just so grateful for the opportunities I've had," she'd say, before detailing her latest bonus or client dinner at some Michelin-starred restaurant. Then she'd turn to me with manufactured concern. "How are things with you, Alicia? Still doing the government thing?" The government thing that paid me $185,000 a year, not counting the security detail, the driver, and the operational budget that could fund a small nation. But I'd smile and say, "Still there, it's steady work." "Steady," she'd repeat, as if I'd said mediocre. "That's important. Not everyone needs to chase the big wins." 3 months ago, at my nephew's graduation party, Chantel had cornered me near the dessert table. She'd just returned from a conference in Dubai and was wearing what I recognized as a Prada suit. I'd done protective details for enough diplomats to know expensive tailoring. "You should come to one of our firm's recruiting events," she'd said, helping herself to a slice of cake. "I mean, I know you're probably comfortable where you are, but it's never too late to pivot. We hire people from all backgrounds, even government." "Even government," I'd repeated. "I just think you're capable of more than you give yourself credit for," she'd squeezed my shoulder. "You've always played it so safe, Alicia, ever since we were kids. Maybe it's time to take a risk." I'd taken a bite of cake to keep from laughing. That week, I'd personally authorized a covert operation in Yemen. I'd stared down a Joint Chiefs member who'd questioned my tactical assessment. I'd made decisions that kept playing it safe off the table entirely. But Chantel saw a woman in a department store dress holding a paper plate and assumed she knew the whole story. "I'll think about it," I'd said. She'd beamed like she'd done me a profound favor. The pattern repeated itself in various forms. My brother Garrett, a corporate lawyer, had once offered to put in a good word with his firm's HR department. My mother frequently suggested I should dress more professionally when I visited. Apparently my understated style read as frumpy government worker rather than woman who briefs the National Security Council. My father's disappointment was quieter, but more cutting. He'd built his own commercial real estate company from nothing and measured success in visible markers: square footage, luxury cars, country club memberships. My career was invisible to him. No corner office he could visit, no plaques on the wall, just vague references to policy work and coordination. "I just want you to be happy," he'd said once, which was his way of saying, "I wish you'd done more with your life." I could have corrected them 1,000 times, but something stopped me. Maybe it was operational security. The less they knew, the safer they were. Maybe it was professional habit. I'd spent years learning to blend in, to be underestimated, to hide in plain sight. Or maybe, on some level, I enjoyed it. The game of it. Knowing that while Chantel bragged about her high-level clients, I was literally briefing the people who made decisions that shaped global policy. Knowing that while my father worried about my lack of ambition, I was running an agency with a $600 million budget and 500 personnel. There was power in being underestimated. In intelligence work, we called it operational cover. In my family, it just looked like chronic underachievement. The concert invitation came in April. Chantel called me on a Tuesday evening, catching me as I was leaving the office. Well, office was an understatement. The NCTC headquarters in McLean is a $500 million facility with some of the most sophisticated technology in the world. But she didn't know that. "So this is last minute," she said, "but a colleague gave me tickets to the Novara concert at the Kennedy Center this Saturday. It's completely sold out, like impossible to get tickets. I thought you might want to come, if you're free." Novara was an international pop star whose concerts were legitimate security events. I knew this because we'd been coordinating with Secret Service and DC Metro for weeks. The Prime Minister of France was attending, along with several ambassadors and high-profile government officials. I knew this because I'd personally approved the security protocol. "Sure," I said. "Sounds fun." "Oh, great!" She sounded genuinely surprised I'd agreed. "Fair warning, it's kind of a scene. Like, very VIP. My firm has a box, but you know how these things are. Lots of networking, important people. Just be prepared for that." "I'll manage," I said dryly. "And dress nice, like really nice. This isn't a jeans and sneakers crowd." I glanced down at my outfit, a tailored Armani suit I'd worn to a morning briefing with the DHS secretary. "I'll do my best." "Perfect. I'll text you the details." "Oh, and Alicia?" She paused. "I'm really glad you're coming. It'll be good for you to see how these high-level events work. You know, for networking. You never know who you might meet." I smiled. You never know. The week leading up to the concert was brutal. On Wednesday, we received credible intelligence about a planned attack on a federal courthouse in Ohio. I spent 14 hours coordinating with FBI, ATF, and local law enforcement, managing the tactical response while keeping the media blackout intact. We neutralized the threat by Thursday evening. 3 arrests, no casualties, no public panic. Friday morning, I briefed the Senate Intelligence Committee on evolving threats in Central Asia. That afternoon, I had a video conference with Interpol regarding a suspected trafficking network with connections to 2 known terrorist organizations. By Saturday morning, I was exhausted, but I'd learned years ago how to function on 4 hours of sleep and black coffee. I met Chantel outside the Kennedy Center at 7 p.m. She was wearing a sequin dress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment, her hair professionally styled, her makeup flawless. She looked me up and down. I'd chosen a simple black dress, elegant but understated, and smiled. "You look nice. Very classic." "Thanks," I said. "Okay, so here's the deal." She linked her arm through mine as we walked toward the entrance. "My boss is in the box tonight with some clients, so we'll probably need to do some schmoozing. Just follow my lead, smile, be friendly. These are important people, so just, be professional." Quote, "I'll try to remember how," I said. She didn't catch the sarcasm. The crowd outside the Kennedy Center was massive. A sea of designer gowns and expensive suits, photographers clustered near the VIP entrance, security barriers creating designated pathways. I recognized the setup immediately: Secret Service protocols, augmented local security, discreet counter-sniper positions on the roof. I'd approved this exact configuration 3 weeks ago. We joined the main entrance line, which was moving slowly. Chantel was on her phone, texting rapidly. God, this line is insane, but at least we have good seats. You should see the general admission section. It's basically chaos. I nodded, watching the security checkpoints ahead. Standard metal detectors, bag checks, credential verification, efficient but thorough. Have you ever been to something like this? Chantel asked. Like a really high-end event? A few, I said mildly. It's different than what you're probably used to. Don't be intimidated. Just stay close to me and... Oh, there's Amanda from marketing. She waved enthusiastically at a woman in a gold dress. We shuffled forward in line. Chantel was now detailing her firm's latest project. Something about disrupting the consulting space and innovative client engagement strategies. I made appropriate listening noises while mentally reviewing the security briefing I'd received that morning. The Prime Minister's detail would be entering through the diplomatic entrance. The Secretary of State was attending, 2 senators, an ambassador. All people I'd either met or briefed in the last 6 months. And I was standing in the general admission line with my cousin, who thought I needed coaching on professional networking. We finally reached the security checkpoint. A young guard in a Kennedy Center uniform was managing the line, checking tickets, and directing people to the appropriate detectors. Chantel handed over both our tickets. We're in Box C, she said importantly. The guard barely glanced at them, metal detectors to the left, bags on the conveyor belt. I placed my small clutch on the belt and stepped through the detector. Clean beep. I collected my bag and waited for Chantel, who was taking significantly longer. Jewelry kept setting off the alarm. Sorry, she was saying, removing her bracelet. It's vintage Cartier, super sensitive to these things. The guard looked unimpressed. Finally cleared, we headed toward the interior corridors. Chantel was flushed and laughing. God, that was embarrassing. But I guess that's what happens when you wear the good jewelry, right? They probably don't see a lot of that. We were walking toward the box level when Chantel suddenly stopped. Oh shit, I forgot. There's a VIP reception before the show. My boss mentioned it. We should try to get in. Do we have access? I asked. Well, no, but sometimes if you're confident enough. She straightened her shoulders and headed toward a side corridor where a separate security checkpoint had been established. A sign read, Diplomatic and VIP guests only. 2 guards stood at the entrance, one checking credentials, one monitoring the metal detector. Behind them, I could see an elegant reception area through glass doors. Chantel walked up confidently. Hi, we're with the Kellerman Group, Box C guests. We were told we might have access to the reception. The guard, mid-40s, military bearing, probably former Secret Service, didn't even look up from his tablet. VIP credentials only. Box seats don't include reception access. Right, but if you could just check. Ma'am, I need you to return to the main corridor. Chantel's smile tightened. I understand, but my boss, Richard Kellerman, specifically said. Sir, I said quietly to the guard, we'll head back. Thank you, ma'am. Chantel was fuming as we walked away. That was ridiculous. Do you know how much our firm pays for those box seats? The customer service here is terrible. He's doing his job, I said. He's being a jerk, she huffed. God, and I wanted to introduce you to some people. This is exactly the kind of event where you could make real connections. But I guess we're stuck with the regular people. The horror, I murmured. We made our way to Box C. The view was excellent. Center stage, elevated position. Chantel's boss, Richard, was already there with 2 clients, everyone holding champagne flutes and discussing market trends. Chantel introduced me as my cousin. She works in government, which everyone received with polite disinterest before returning to their conversation about quarterly projections. I stood near the railing, watching the crowd below fill in. The energy was building, excited chatter, the orchestra warming up, ushers guiding people to seats. You okay? Chantel appeared at my elbow with a champagne flute. I know this probably isn't your usual scene. It's fine, I said. You're being quiet? You're not feeling, I don't know, out of place? I took a sip of champagne, not particularly. She squeezed my arm. Good. I mean, I just want you to enjoy it, even if we're not in the VIP section. She laughed. God, that security guard. Like he was protecting national secrets or something. Maybe he was, I said. The concert was spectacular. Novara had a voice that could shatter glass and a stage presence that commanded 50,000 square feet. Between songs, Chantel leaned over to point out people she recognized. A local news anchor, a city councilman, someone's husband who'd founded a tech startup. During the intermission, we went to the bar. Chantel was introducing me to one of Richard's clients, a man who owned a chain of car dealerships, when her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her eyes widened. Oh my God. What? Jessica just texted. She's in the diplomatic box. She says the Prime Minister of France is here. She looked up at me, thrilled. Can you imagine? The actual Prime Minister, like 50 feet away from us? Wild, I said. She's trying to get a photo? God, how cool would that be for Instagram? She was typing rapidly. Maybe we can go by that section after the show, see if we can spot anyone. Maybe, I said. The second half of the concert was even better than the first. Novara closed with her signature song, the entire audience on their feet, phone lights swaying. It was beautiful in the way mass gatherings can be, thousands of people united in a single moment. When the lights came up, Chantel was glowing. That was incredible. God, I'm so glad you came. This was fun, right? It really was, I said honestly. Okay, so Richard and them are going to some after party, but that's super exclusive. Want to grab a drink somewhere nearby? We could hit that wine bar on M Street. Sure. We made our way downstairs with the crowd, the usual post-concert shuffle toward exits. Chantel was still on her phone, texting Jessica about the Prime Minister sighting. We were almost to the main doors when Chantel suddenly stopped. Oh, wait. Jessica says they're having people exit through different doors depending on where you were sitting. Something about VIP departures. She checked her phone. She says the east entrance is way less crowded. Let's go that way. We changed direction, following signs toward the east exit. The crowd was thinner here. Most people were funneling toward the main doors. We walked down a side corridor, following a few other groups. And then we turned a corner and ran straight into a security checkpoint. This one was different. No velvet ropes or friendly ushers. This was a hard perimeter. Concrete barriers, multiple guards in dark suits with earpieces, metal detectors that looked considerably more sophisticated than the entrance equipment. A large security officer held up his hand. This exit is restricted. Please return to the main corridor. Oh, sorry, Chantel said. We were just trying to avoid the crowd. Understood. Main exits are clearly marked. He gestured back the way we'd come. But Chantel, flushed with champagne and concert adrenaline, didn't move. Is this the VIP exit? Because my firm has box seats, we're not exactly general admission. Ma'am, I need you to return to the public areas. I understand, but if you could just... She was reaching for her phone, probably to show him some kind of credential. I touched her elbow. Chantel, let's just... No, this is ridiculous. We've been treated like second-class guests all night. She turned back to the guard. Do you know how much our company pays for those seats? The guard's expression didn't change. Ma'am, final warning. Please turn around. A small crowd had gathered behind us. Other confused concert-goers who'd also followed the east exit signs. I could see them whispering, pulling out phones. Chantel's face was red. This is such bullshit. You know what? Fine, we'll leave through the regular people exit. Come on, Alicia, quote. But as she turned, she bumped into me and my clutch fell open. My government ID folder landed on the floor. The security guard's eyes dropped to it automatically. Just a glance, professional surveillance. Then he froze. His entire posture changed. His hand, which had been casually resting at his side, snapped to a more formal position. His eyes came up to my face, and I saw the exact moment recognition hit. "Ma'am," he said, and his voice was completely different. I didn't realize." I bent to pick up the ID folder, taking my time. Behind me, Chantel was still muttering about customer service. The guard was staring at me like I'd materialized from another dimension. "It's fine," I said quietly. He straightened, almost coming to attention. "Ma'am, if you'd told us you were here, we would have—" "I'm off duty," I said, just enjoying the concert. His radio crackled. He touched his earpiece, listening to something, then looked at me again. "Director Voss, would you and your guest prefer to use the diplomatic exit? It's much less congested." Chantel stopped talking. She turned slowly to stare at me. "That's really not necessary," I said. "It's no trouble at all, ma'am," he gestured to his colleague, who immediately began moving the barriers. "Right this way." He opened a side gate, the one with no line, no crowd, no metal detectors, and stood aside, bowing slightly. I could feel Chantel's eyes burning into the side of my face. "Actually," I said, "we were just leaving through the main entrance." "I understand, but the event director would want to." He paused, listening to his earpiece again. His eyes widened slightly. "Director Voss, I'm being told the Prime Minister's detail is asking if you'd like your reserved entrance prepared." The corridor went silent. Even the other concert-goers had stopped moving, sensing something significant was happening. I glanced at Chantel. She looked like she'd been struck by lightning. Mouth open, face pale, completely still. "That won't be necessary," I said, "but thank you." "Of course, ma'am." The guard was practically standing at attention now. "Please, this way." I walked through the opened gate. Behind me, I heard Chantel start to follow, then hesitate. "Ma'am," the guard said to her, "you're with Director Voss?" Yes, I'm her cousin." "Right this way." We walked through the diplomatic corridor in complete silence. It was a different world back here, quiet, elegant, insulated from the main crowd. Security personnel nodded as we passed. One woman in a Secret Service suit smiled at me. "Good evening, Director." "Evening," I said. Chantel made a small, strangled sound. We emerged outside through a private exit where town cars were waiting. The night air was cool. The sounds of the departing crowd were distant, muffled. Chantel stopped walking, stopped talking, stopped breathing. Her champagne flute, somehow still in her hand, slipped from her fingers and shattered on the pavement. I turned to look at her. Her face had gone from pale to crimson, her eyes wide with something between horror and disbelief. "Chantel?" I said quietly. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. She couldn't seem to form words. You're the director!" "Director of the National Counterterrorism Center," I confirmed. "I have been for 6 years." "But you said government admin." "I said I worked in government." You filled in the rest. A Secret Service agent approached us. "Director Voss, your car is waiting if you need transportation." "I'm fine, thank you." He nodded and stepped away. Chantel was staring at me like I was a stranger. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I did, multiple times. You just didn't listen." "But you let me." "I've been—" Her voice trailed off as the implications crashed down. Every condescending comment, every piece of unwanted career advice, every pitying smile. "You let me think you were nobody," she whispered. "No," I said softly, "I let you reveal who you are." I pulled out my phone and called a car. Chantel stood frozen, the broken glass at her feet, her designer dress suddenly looking like a costume. When my car arrived, a black SUV with government plates, I opened the door, then paused. "For what it's worth," I said, "the concert was lovely. Thank you for the invitation." She didn't respond, couldn't respond. I got in the car and closed the door. As we pulled away, I saw her in the side mirror, still standing there, still frozen, the Kennedy Center lights illuminating her shocked face. My phone buzzed. A text from my deputy. "Situation in Berlin developing. Need you on the call at 9 a.m. tomorrow. I typed back, I'll be there. Just another Sunday morning briefing, just another crisis to manage. Just another day in my very unremarkable government admin job.